The second cause is the cause of changing the domestic imbalance preference. That is the different countries have different preferences for inflation and unemployment. And some countries are sensitive to the inflation, while others are sensitive to the unemployment. This may be bring the cost to the establishment of the single currency area and make the inflation and the unemployment in the country unbalanced. If on this on these charts, we can see that there is the this is the famous the Phillips curve that denotes the relationship between the inflation and unemployment. Use this chart for the left side is for the Germany. The vertical axis denotes the wage, and the Italy is on the right side. That denotes the same with the y-axis as the wage, and the x-axis denotes the price. And the left side is the price change, and the right side of the origin denotes the unemployment for these two countries. And assume the Phillips curve doesn't change with don't change with respect to the inflation expectation change. After the forming of after the establishment of the single currency area, relative depreciation rate of the two currencies between the Deutschmark and the Italy lira. And the inflation is denotes on the left from the origin. That changes. The expression is the wage change and the price change. The left side of the left half of the curve, the coordination. So the inflation rate of the Italy and Germany can be expressed by the PI and the PG, and the wage of the two countries, the W, means the inflation, the wage increase of the two countries, and that price difference. The inflation is the difference, can be denoted, inflation rate can be expressed by the difference between the wage of the country, the wage change increase rates with the labor productivity's increase rate. So the inflation can be denoted by the wage, the increase rate of the wage and the increase rate of the labor productivity. So we can, using the purchasing power parity and to equalize the two countries' inflation, that denotes the inflation. The Deutschmark's appreciation rates with respect to the Italy lira. That is denoted by the small lowercase e. So the yin is the equilibrium. If Italy has a higher domestic inflation rate, and to ensure only only through Italy's lira's devaluation can the competitiveness of Italy product remain unchanged. Once Germany has Once Germany and Italy have become a single currency area, there will be no exchange rate change. In this way, the lowercase e is equal to 0. In order to achieve the equilibrium, the two countries must have the same rate of inflation. And the unemployment have to the countries with different preference for the inflation and the unemployment have to bear the cost of more unemployment or inflation, which destroying the domestic balance. So the next cost is the cost caused by the structural difference in the labor market. The countries have different labor market structures with the labor organization. Wage negotiation on the wage by the labor organization is more concentrated in one country than the other countries. And countries with different labor markets form a single currency area, which is likely to cause a large cost. Because they have different market structure, that makes the wage change of member countries are not consistent and we're facing the same supply shock. That's resulting in the disequilibrium of the two countries. And when a country has a high degree of concentration in the wage negotiation, the Unified Labor Organization will take into account the inflationary effect of the wage increase and will not make excessive wage demands because it knows that excessive wage demands will only increase nominal wages while the real wage will not change. And the opposite is true when the wage negotiations are less centralized. Individual and independent labor organizations believe that increasing their own nominal wage have no effect on the overall price level of the country because they're only part of the overall labor market, and therefore they tend to demand higher nominal wage. As a result, each labor organization is competing for a higher wage to prevent their own real wage from falling as the overall price level rises. And the equilibrium of this non-cooperative game is that the nominal wage of all workers goes up and the overall price level goes up. And in case of the supply shock, when the decentralized market structure is not only is also not benefit to the overall price level. It's not over to the adjustment of the wage. Is not beneficial to the adjustment of the wage. And in the case of the insufficient information, no single organization is willing to be the first to lower their nominal wages. And because it faces the risk that other organizations will not follow, which means the decline of this real wage in the case of the no followers. And countries with different concentration on the labor organization form a single currency when they suffer the same supply shock. They have different absorption capacity for the shock. And generally speaking, countries where with high concentration have more um, have more employment and less impact on output, while countries where lower concentrations have more unemployment and lower output. And under the single currency area, this imbalance is made more difficult to adjust because the lack of exchange rate instruments. However, the too high concentration of the labor organization can easily lead to the monopoly, which is also not beneficial to the creation of the employment and will weaken the ability to absorb the shock.